Hello everyone. Today we're going to be learning how to do French knots and woven circles. They are both pretty different stitches that can add a lot to a project. So first, let's go through how to do a French knot. As usual, I have my different weights of thread here, the 8, the 5, and the 3, and later I will show you what those look like stitched out. But first, I'm just going to demonstrate with our 8 weight thread. This is all Eleganza, a pearl cotton from WonderFil. So, for the French knot, you want to come up where your point is. So right here. Now, this is the part where sometimes it can get a little bit confusing because there can be incidents where you undo a French knot by winding it in the wrong direction. So I'm just gonna put my hoop down, and what I like to do actually is I'll hold the thread with my left hand. I'll have the needle kind of above the thread here, and I'll go over it twice. 1, 2, and then I'll go back through the dot, but not exactly where I came up out of. I will actually go right next to where I came up out of. Then I pull the needle through, keeping the thread nice and taut. And there's our first French knot. I'm gonna show you again. We're just gonna come up on the dot. Typically, I'll put a pin cushion or something that I can put my hoop or my project on top of, so when I stab the fabric, my needle will stay in spot while I'm keeping everything nice and taut. But in this case, since I have a hoop, that's actually good enough for today. Again, I have my needle here, my thread here, and I'll bring the thread on top. 1, 2, and then I'm gonna poke it back next to where I came up, not through the same hole. Otherwise, you're gonna actually undo your knot and then you'll have to clip it all out. And I'm just using my thumb to hold down this thread here to keep your French knot nice and tight. There we go. I'll just do it a few more times so you can see. Again, holding it with my left hand. We're bringing the thread over. 1, 2. Next to where we came up, back through the fabric, keeping the thread here tight. And pulling it back through. There's our other French knot. Over the needle. 1, 2, and then back through. So sometimes with French knots, you can wrap the thread around more than twice if you want to. Some people prefer wrapping it 3 times. Some people prefer just wrapping it once. For me, I like wrapping it 2 times, but no matter how many times you wrap it, you'll still end up getting a French knot. So 1, 2, like this, back through where you came up, keeping this thread a little bit taut right here so your French knot doesn't get loose, and then pulling back through like that. So there's your French knot. Now that we have 5 French knots completed, I quickly just want to show some common confusions with the French knot, which will sometimes result in either like a tiny seed stitch or a different type of knot. So like I was showing earlier, I was going in this direction, right over my needle and poking it back through the fabric. Sometimes you can be going the opposite direction like this, and that will actually affect how the French knot gets stitched down. If you're going the wrong way, you'll actually end up just making a small seed stitch because you're undoing it as you're pulling the needle through, and that won't result in a French knot. Especially if you're trying to do everything with one hand, sometimes that can happen too, like this. I've seen this happen with French knots, so you can imagine once I poke the needle back through, all you're doing is twisting the thread. So that won't result in a French knot. That's just a twist that will come undone like that. So remember to hold your needle here, bring it over twice like this, and back through your fabric, holding the thread a little bit taut so your French knot stays nice and tight. And there you go. So as you can see, I've stitched out the French knots in an 8 weight, a 5 weight, and a 3 weight. Switching up the weights actually makes quite a big impact when you're doing French knots. Since you're circling the needle twice with the thread, you're already kind of doubling the volume of it when you're stitching down your French knot. And French knots are some of my favorite stitches because it adds a pretty big impact when you add multiple French stitches to an area, and they're very simple and quick to do. So that's how you do a French knot. Next, I'm going to show you how to do a woven circle. So all I've done here is just used an erasable pen and drawn the shape of the circle out. You don't always have to do this, of course, but for today, it'll kind of help us get an idea of the size of the circle and also where to put our stitches. So again, today I'm going to be demonstrating how to do the woven circle with the 8 weight thread, and then I will show you the completed versions with a 3 and a 5 weight later on. Okay, I have my needle threaded, and so the idea of the woven circle is you're going to actually have 5 spokes coming out of the center of the circle. You don't want an even number of spokes, otherwise you're not going to be able to achieve the look of a woven circle. So typically we will just have 5. I like to start with the outside of the circle going to the center. So this is my center. There's one. You can always measure out where you want your spokes to be. Oftentimes I'm a little bit lazy with that, but a tip that I like to do is your spokes will always be spaced just under a quarter of the circle apart. So if this is a quarter, you can just go a little bit smaller than that, and that will kind of help you space them out a little bit more evenly. Right here. All right. And there's my 5 spokes. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be as close as you can get to kind of an even spread of the 5 stitches. The next thing you want to do is bring your needle up next to the center of your woven circle. So I'm just pulling that back up through. And a trick is you want to use the back of your needle to do this stitch because we're going to be weaving over and under all our spokes in circles going round and round. And so when you're using the back of your needle, you won't split your thread as easily versus if I'm using the sharp end of my needle. Sometimes if I stab the thread, then that's not the look that we're going for. That also locks your thread in a place where maybe you don't want it to be locked into. So using the back of your needle, you're just going to go over one or under one, over one, under one, over one, and then you keep going round and round until you fill the entire circle. So sometimes you need to move your piece around a little bit just so you can put your needle under a little bit more easily. I grabbed a bit of a longer strand of thread here just so I don't have to stop and start again. But of course, if you do run out of thread, that is okay. You can kind of just tuck your end under the part that you've already weaved and then start from a similar place. So it is pretty seamless with this stitch, luckily. So now I've done the woven circles in all 3 sizes. We have the 8 weight, the 5 weight, and the 3 weight right there. They all have the 5 spokes like I mentioned before. It needs to be an odd number so you can go under and over and alternate as you go around the circle until it is completely filled. A quick tip is when you're ending the circle, you can just tuck the thread end right under the circle there, so you wouldn't be able to see at all when you've finished your last round there. And I still have some marking pen here that I can take away with a hot iron, but that is essentially how you do the woven circle. Another really simple stitch you can do to add some extra embellishments to your projects. So there you go.
Thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more great tips, tricks, and tutorials. You can also sign up for our weekly newsletter to get the first look at free projects, sewing tips, and inspiring tutorials delivered right to your inbox. Check out the description box below to sign up, as well as find a list of stores and retailers that you can purchase WonderFil threads from in your country.